An adjuster may be very nice to you on the phone, and I would say that generally when you call in somewhere, most people call into an insurance company because they're reporting A, that there's been an accident, and generally that there's property damage. The intake person that you speak to initially is being very nice to you. They have an obligation to get specific details from you so that they can get a file rolling on behalf of the insurance company so that they can deal with the specific issues. One of the things that happens sometimes when people call in to report an accident is the insurance representative on the other end of the phone will say, "Are you injured?" Sometimes people are making those calls very quickly after an accident because they think that's the priority, even over maybe getting medical attention, is I have to report this to my insurance company because people don't really understand how insurance works. They don't understand exactly what their obligations are. So they may be making that call very quickly after an accident, and they may not even know whether they're injured or not because some injuries don't show up immediately. They may show up hours or within days of an accident happening, because they may be to structures that it's not as obvious that you have, an immediately obvious broken arm or an immediately obvious broken neck or something like that. It may be that you've had an injury to your neck or your back that doesn't show up immediately. So I would say some advice for people is don't give definitive answers when you're asked if you're injured, if you don't know whether you're injured or if you're still in shock from an accident. The other thing that you need to be aware of is that an insurance company has different interests than what your interests are. Your interests following an accident are generally to get any property damage dealt with, to get better if you're injured from the accident, and hopefully get back to your regular life. The insurance company's interest, they have an obligation to help you with that process, but they have a whole separate set of interests that relate to the financial side of their company. Most insurance companies are publicly traded companies, meaning that they have shareholders and stock and trade on the open market. And they have a responsibility also to those people in terms of turning a profit. And sometimes what can happen is when those two things intersect, an insurance company can say, well, this is one file, or sometimes you're just a piece of paper to this insurance company, and they may have a manager or somebody else breathing down their neck. They may have just been to a meeting where, corporate policy was dictating something related to the market. So they have a couple of things that they're thinking about. They may be thinking about your claim, but they may also be thinking about the profits of the insurance industry as a whole. Also in Ontario, there's been a lot of emphasis on fraud within the Ontario car insurance industry. And quite significantly, the insurance industry has been beating the fraud drum as though every person who gets in a car accident is a fraud. And so that's very present in the insurance mind collectively right now, is that, especially where people are in an accident and they maybe don't have injuries that are as immediately obvious as somebody who has broken bones, is bleeding, is lying on the side of the road unconscious or something like that. There tends to be a bit of an emphasis right now that people who are calling who have the most classic types of auto injuries right now, which is pain in their neck, in their back, headaches, some of these things that are not as well understood because they're not immediately obvious injuries. There's a lot of emphasis right now within the insurance industry that perhaps those claims are fraudulent, so you do have to be careful when you're dealing with your insurance company. And people say to us all the time, but they're my insurance company. Why aren't they helping me? And we say, well, you're right. They are your insurance company, and they do have an obligation to help you. But unfortunately, sometimes that falls by the wayside because in many cases, when you're dealing with an insurance company, you're literally just a pile of paper on their desk. And we see the other side of the file where we see the human element, where we see people are really hurting and really have serious problems and need some help. And I say to insurance adjusters all the time that I think that they're at a significant disadvantage not being able to meet our clients and understand how these incidents have really impacted their lives. Some adjusters agree with me and some don't.